Oh, this is going well.
Coming to you live from the Hellmouth, it's the Popular Cinema Podcast. I'm your co-host, Payne.
And I'm Bill.
And welcome to episode 53. You're not the most patient person, are you?
I feel that's very positive that you knew the episode without going, what episode are we on? Where are we at? You got your shit on lock today. That's good.
Yeah, I actually had to look it up, but I mean, I was doing something called prepping for the show. I just didn't like roll over and just throw on my headphone set.
I know, because I know you always prep so well, and so today it's just another ordinary prep day.
It is not an ordinary prep day, Bill, because I was on the phone. I'm a little bit 5 minutes behind with our start time is because I had to call AT&T Uverse.
Why? Because I've been on the phone with my cable company too. Why?
Well, I was sitting here like getting things, looking at news stories, kind of going over some stuff. And all of a sudden, like I had like multiple window tabs open. And they do the little circle thing where it's going round and round and round, but nothing's uploading.
Right.
And I'm trying to check my internet connection, and I'm thinking, here we go again. It's Sunday.
Why does it happen on Sundays over there all the time? Like, what's the deal with Sunday?
I do not know. I feel like it's some sort of punishment because, I've cut the cord to the fans out there. I've cut the cord. But anyway, I feel like it's a punishment. So I ran out
I would feel like it was a punishment, too, except that they were doing this before you cut the cord. So not sure that's...
Well, I feel like now it's going to be they're going to ramp up their efforts to discourage me. But either way, I had to call them on the phone, and whoever I got, Brenda, Debbie, Betty, I was like, listen, I go, you would actually think I was running some sort of major operation for Apple or Google, but what I said was, okay, you know what? I have a podcast this afternoon. It's very important, and I got to make sure I have a secure connection.
Oh, I'm sure and Benny and Debbie and Cindy or whatever their names were just like, oh, let me put you on the priority list since you have a podcast to do. Oh, my God. Hold on a second. Let me put you on the upload fast list.
You know who I am. At this point, she's just like, we'll do some sort of test. I'm sitting there ready to get my Euro. And, she says, well, you know what? It looks like you do have a slow connection. And then she goes, we're going to have to send out a technician. And I was getting kind of annoyed. And I'm like, well, sending out a technician today, tomorrow doesn't help me today. So she did some sort of like, she's allegedly put a Band-Aid on it.
Yeah, what she did was go like this. She had a little pocket calculator sitting next to her keyboard, and she was like, oh, look at that. I put you on the expedite list. Oh, I fixed it. Oh, I fixed it.
Don't say that because I kind of want to believe that she uploaded a few extra megabytes into my system.
Sure she did, because first of all, you've already cut them off like 75% of your business because you were already aggravated with their expeditious, ridiculous prices. So you were like, you know what? I just want the basic standard internet package. Just send me straight to the internet. How much does that cost? Is it more than $12? Then I don't want it. Get it out. So they were like, okay, well, we're going to put him on our priority customer list since he wants to pay like the minimum price for the maximum benefit. So I'm sure she was like, let me make sure I make this customer's package run fast.
She goes, Mr. Payne, are you having any trouble with your TV service? I go, listen, I don't use your TV service. I just have that to get the lowest combo bundle package price. Okay.
So let me get this right. You still have AT&T. You just don't use it because you have to pay for it to get the lowest package anyway. You pay for it, but you just use.
Yeah, I think it's only like 5 channels. I think it's like only 5 like local channels.
Okay.
But either way, for the people who don't know, I cut the cord about a week ago, maybe, I don't know, 10 days. I am now, the reason why I cut the cord was because I was paying upwards to approximately $165 for internet and cable. So I'm down.
Oh, baby, you try 271, motherfucker, then complain to me. Okay.
People just don't understand that. Every time I tell my woman about that, I told her about what you pay. Her head just kind of like spins around like The Exorcist. She's just like, "What does he have over there? What is he doing that he has?"
I know.
Services?
You would, for $271, you would think I was jacked right into the fucking cable company like main office. Like I'm going straight to the source. Like that's just mainline Spectrum right there for 271. But I'm not. Okay.
So I now have the PlayStation View where I pay for 49 bucks for I don't know how many channels. It's like 60 channels. I like it on the PS4, but the interface on the Roku sucks the big one.
It's it's not necessarily the Roku, because the Roku on interface on your PlayStation View on your television that's actually, you know, a viewable size, 60 inches or whatever it is fine. It's the problem that you have is that you're trying to watch a multi-channel internet feed, like network streaming service on a pocket calculator in your kitchen. That's the problem.
That may be true, but my upstairs bedroom television is a lot larger, obviously, but not as big as the one in my living room.
Mm-hmm.
But it still has a sucky interface.
I've used Roku for about 3 years now, and you know, I'm not gonna say it's award-winning interface. I'm not saying it's like, oh my god, this interface is just most smooth like silk. But I don't really necessarily have a problem with it.
No. It's not the problem is the PlayStation View app on the Roku. That's the problem. There's something.
Now I use Hulu app. I use the Netflix app. I use all those little like sci-fi apps and Disney XD apps. I mean, none of them are like, you know, oh, this is just the best thing ever. But I'm never going to go, oh, God, I can't stand this app. It's horrible. I can't use it. What's so bad about this app that you cannot possibly use it?
It's the way it's organized. It's not really readable. It's just jumbled. It's confusing.
It doesn't have anything to do with the fact that it's a 7-inch screen that you're trying to view it on, right?
I know you're trying to punish me for having the 7-inch screen, but on a larger screen, it's just disorganized. It works perfectly on the PS4. I mean, you just look at it, and it's almost sort of like the Minority Report with Tom Cruise. Things just move around. You can see everything. It's just so
because
clear.
It's PlayStation. It's built for its own company. Sure, I get that. But you can't. How bad can it be? Is what I'm trying to really figure out. How bad can it be? It's just like channel listings, and
you know, I'll tell you how bad it is. When I was over my sister's house, like for Thanksgiving, I think it was probably like a couple years ago before she moved, right? Before you came over. Anyway, I wanted to sit on the couch and watch television while everybody went to bed. And then my sister gave me this look, and she goes, "Oh, I'm going to have to go get my husband to come down here and hook it up and show you how it works." I was like, hook it up and show me how it works?
Is that husband number one or husband number two we're talking about?
Husband number two.
Okay.
And so, I mean, I was just sitting there going like, he has to come down here and show me. I go, you know what? I just rather play on my phone and then just fall asleep from depression than have to deal with like trying to figure out how to operate their Sling. I'm stealing cable from somebody else operation. You got to use the tablet type of thing.
Well, you're just outing them as like the cheap fucker cable viewer people. Okay.
I'm a taxpayer, Bill. Forgive me if I'm a little bit bitter for people who don't pay the taxes. All right. Okay. But so my point is, I feel if I have to explain it to my woman on how to use the system, she's going to look at me and just say, fuck it. You know what? I just rather read the Facebook on my phone. And just be done.
Yeah, but she's not a real TV viewer anyway. I mean, if it's not on TLC and it's not My 600-Pound Life or Hoarders, it's not something that she's really going to go out of her way to sort of like find a way to watch anyway, right?
Well, I'm simplifying by adding her channels to it so you can go to my favorites. But either way, I'm a TV person, and I've been reading on the internet. I'm not the only one. There have been complaints sent over for them to come up with a better app. And I don't know if it's happening, but I'm going to look for some sort of alternative.
So
Maybe
here's you
Chromecast.
people wanting to strip it down. You know what? I just want to pay the minimum price for the maximum benefit. I want to pay $9.99 or $13.99 or whatever it is, and I want that interface to look like some A plus, straight up, cable level, honest to goodness, viewable experience. I want it to be like simplified and, you know, sophisticated at the same time. Okay.
Yeah.
How much are you willing to pay for this service, sir? $12.99. That's it. More than $12.99, and I am just cutting the cord. I'm cutting it off. Oh.
Did
Okay.
I told you the story with AT&T Uverse when I was fed up finally with my bill and paying the high prices. I finally they pushed me to the, it's a bad business practice, but I finally snapped. You knew this. And I called the lady up on the phone. And you had warned me before that they would jack up my internet. They just wouldn't let it go. Like they wouldn't just keep me at my price. But I was still sort of naive that maybe this would be fine. So I called the lady up on the phone. I just said, how much for the internet? Just alone. And the person goes, $50. I was like, $50 I can do. That's no problem. I'll be happy to pay the 50 plus taxes. So I called them back up a week later and I talked to Debbie over there in retention services. And she says to me, she goes, you're going to get rid of it. She goes, the price is going to go up. I go, yeah, Debbie, I know. It's going to be $50. I go, I got no problem with that. And she goes, oh, sir, actually, no, it's going to be $69. I go, $69? I go, she goes, yeah, sir, it's no longer. I go, listen, I know it's no longer bundled, Debbie, but I called your company last week and I said it was 50. She goes, no, sir, they misspoke. It's 69. And then I was like,
always misspeak. As soon as they tell you something that sounds like you're not going to put up a fight for it, they're always like, oh, I'll tell you what. It's like the guy that told me that my internet was going to be $254. And then when I called back to actually cancel the service after he quoted me that price, they jacked my bill up to $271. And they go, oh, I mean, that was before taxes, or they considered the extra boxes, or maybe you have a ultra internet speed. Anyway, it's $271. They were wrong. Oops. Yeah.
Oh boy. So how long were you on the phone for?
On Friday, if you count the first phone call I made to them, plus the second phone call I made to them, plus the time I spent with them when I got home from work, about 4 hours.
Wow. And that was to get the rate down to something that you found to be acceptable.
Right. Except in order to do that, on top of the 4 hours I had to spend on Friday, I had to go to the cable company store on Saturday morning when they opened, return some equipment to them, and then come home, reactivate the equipment they've given me already, they exchanged it for, and still my one service for them, which is my home security system, doesn't work because the guy that told me that I had to return the router in order to get them to take my bill down was wrong. The router is required for the home security system, even though I checked with him and said, do I need this router for my home security? He's like, nope, you just have that one modem, you're fine. You'll exchange it for your phone modem, which is free of charge for your basement for your phone, and you'll be good to go. Okay, so when I got home, I had to activate the phone modem that they exchanged all the other equipment with me for the free phone modem. That had to be activated. That worked. And then Time Warner sent an email to my husband that said, your home security system is malfunctioning. Please call us right away. So he called and they were like, what happened to the router that we set you up with? And I said, well, I returned the router because the customer service guy said I could save $55 because I don't need that router anyway, even if I have home security. And they're like, that's it, totally incorrect. You'll absolutely need a router. We'll have to send one out, a technician out to your home. That'll be a charge of $55 to come out. Yeah.
All right. Are you happy with Spectrum now?
No,
Did
I'm
you get it all resolved?
completely. Are you a satisfied customer? Absolutely not. Now, it turns out that when Spectrum bought Time Warner was giving us free Wi-Fi service in our house. But when they changed over to Spectrum, they eliminated the grandfathered in free service for all the old customers as well as the new customers. And they started charging $55 for internet access, Wi-Fi access. Okay. Well, because I had two modems in my house, because one is in my basement and one is in my upstairs because the Wi-Fi wouldn't stretch from my basement all around my house. But under Time Warner, it was free because nobody cared because they were like, whatever, free. You can have as many modems as you want. It's all free. Doesn't matter. We'll just put it in and it costs you nothing. Okay. Under Spectrum, it changed. So because I had two modems, they charged me two Wi-Fi network access fees, which are $55 a piece under Spectrum's plan.
That is unacceptable.
$110 a month for internet access when I used to be paying $0.
Okay, the husband can't be happy about that.
No, he was not. He was not actually at all. So I had to call him and spend hours on the phone with him at work on Friday. Meanwhile, my boss is looking at me like, I mean, I know you don't have anything else to do, but maybe you could get off your personal call because you've been on it for 2 hours. So I had to deal with that, and then I had to deal with coming home and working on it. It's a long story. The fact is, it's just not fixed yet, even though I've spent hours on this all weekend.
Is this going to push you to cut the cord and join the revolution?
Yes. As soon as I can get a DVR service for whatever company we go with, then we will cut the cord.
Wow. That's going to be great. Unfortunately, I hope you do it sooner because I always feel like you end up getting like the high quality shit like the Fabergé eggs. And I go with some options that are always like, tin can and string. And then, you show me the way. So I'm kind of hoping you speed up your process.
Well, it's interesting because now you get to be the guinea pig and you get to experiment with the PlayStation Vue, which I don't actually have to have a PlayStation 4, but I do need a DVR that lasts beyond the PlayStation's DVR limit, which is 30 days or 28 days or something. I don't want to be on somebody else's schedule with my DVR, which is why I'm sort of waiting until they offer me a DVR. Some service offers me a DVR in which I can leave my shit on whenever I want on the DVR and then, also pay less money. So.
Yeah, it's amazing right now because I feel as though with all the ones out there, you got your YouTube, you got your Hulu, your PlayStation Vue, DirecTV Now. It's almost I'm hoping that the competition improves the service, like they keep trying to outdo one another.
They will.
Our business.
They will.
And that eventually there will be. Either way.
Have you used the DVR yet?
Yeah, I've used it.
Is it the same as your cable DVR was, or
a little bit different? But it's
when you say wait. When you say a little bit different, what does that mean?
Well, I think for me, what I'm used to, like with the AT&T DVR, like you could fast forward it, but you can see the pictures moving across the screen, and you could stop it, like you could see it. Like with this one here, it's almost like it's sort of like my Netflix on the Roku. You go a few minutes, but things don't move. Like you
can't see the picture.
Right, you just show up at a spot, and then you're like, I've gone too far. You got to hit it back something. It's sort of like that for me. It's a little bit irritating, but I think the cost savings it outweighs my irritation.
What about the quality of the picture? Is it equal to or greater than?
Quality of the picture is fine. All that, the viewing is great. It's really just sort of like trying to figure out how to operate it, like getting around on it. Like where do you do your favorite show? How do you access the DVR? Where's the guide? Like on the Roku, I beg you, I give you like $100 to tell me how to figure out how to get to the DVR portion of your television. I mean, from the your programs. It's just like I just pressed random button on my Roku remote just to help, something to pop up to find it. It's just not.
So there's no like on the Roku in your kitchen you're talking about. There's no way to like hit like
upstairs. There's no button that says like hit star or hit R1 or hit square for to pull up your favorites or to pull up the DVR. It's
fucking random. They don't give you like a way to do it.
No, like there's no guide, and it's kind of frustrating because you're just hitting like even for the PS4, which is beautiful to look at. I still have to just hit random buttons like the X or the O, and then shit pops up, and then I'm like, oh, let me go up there and then scroll across, and it gives me the options. But you're like, how are you? I mean, I guess it's up.
It really shouldn't be like that. It should be like cable, where you go hit this button to access your DVR, and then you pull up your guide or whatever, or your list, and your shit pops up because it's the shit that you put on there that you recorded on purpose. It's not like that.
No, it's not. I mean, I got kind of frustrated just trying to watch some sort of service. And the other thing is, you think you're clicking on live television, but I wasn't clicking on live TV, which it said live TV. And I'm watching a program with Chris, and whatever it is, like on my phone, it alerted me that the score was 14 zip. But on the show that we were watching, the score was 0-0. And I'm like, it somehow started the game from the beginning instead of where it was currently at in real time. And I was like, what the fuck?
Could you fast forward?
Well, it's not even a fast forward. It's just go to the channel where it says live television. You're like, that's what I thought I hit. I hit live television. And
but it's still somehow delayed.
Well, yeah, it started it from the beginning. It was almost like, well, you want to go to this channel. It looks like it's already started. We're going to start it at the beginning for you. I'm like, that seems like opposite of live television.
Can you fast forward from where you started on the live TV feed to get to where the phone was?
No, I couldn't. And the other thing that happened is couldn't figure out how to even do that. So yeah,
okay.
There was a couple
this is why you pay more money for cable television. This is just why, because I can't have this kind of nonsense. I can't have this nonsense where I'm like, is it live or is it Memorex? Can I fast forward and still see the picture so I know when to stop when the commercials end? Or like on Netflix, when you fast forward, or Hulu, you just gotta be like, because like I watch these soap operas, but they're so dreadful anymore. There's only like, I can watch a whole half-hour soap opera in like 5 minutes because really that's about all the content I really fucking care to see. But when you fast forward through the ridiculous nonsense, you can't see it on. I have like CBS All Access on my Roku, which I pay like $10 for commercial-free CBS All Access, right, a month. And you fast forward it, and it blacks out the picture. You don't know what you're fast forwarding through until you stop the button. So you're basically pressing like fast forward for 2 seconds, and then you're like, oh, better press play again. And then it's like, it's only moved like 2 seconds beyond where you were before. So it's very kind of irritating. But for $10 a month, I only watch one show on it. So it's like, okay, well, I guess I'll live with it. But I could see that if this was my main viewing of like other shows, that this would be a problem. And this is why I pay.
Right. It's frustrating for me because it makes me almost like it's not worth the trouble. I rather just go to like, it's happened within this past week where I've gotten frustrated. And I said, you know what? Let me just put on Netflix. Let me just find a show on Netflix, put it on, and just go on about my business. Like I don't have time to figure this out. I'm watching the news story, and they're like this. And here we are at the Brazil Olympics. I'm like, Olympics? I thought this was live news.
Here's the problem. I really don't think any streaming service right now is where it needs to be as far as like customer accessibility and the ability to do whatever cable does for you. I do believe it will get there. I do believe it will get there, and it will still be cheaper than cable. But right now, because of the licensing or whatever reasons they have, I just think that it's not quite where I need it to be for my particular needs. So I am hesitant to cut the cable cord, even though supposedly I've been able to save $55 a month on my cable bill this month. It's still going to cost us over $200 a month. I just think right now, I think we're going to kind of stick with it at least until they get it up to the level that I'm used to. I need it to be fast forwarding so you can see the picture. I need to be able to fast forward through all commercials, not only certain networks. I need to be rewind and see the picture. I need it to be the quality of picture signal that I'm used to with cable. I need a DVR with unlimited access. These are the things. And when they get there, I won't hesitate to cut the cord. But until then, I kind of wonder, it's a trade-off for me, and I don't know how much I'm willing to sacrifice.
Well, okay, that's good enough. That's good enough. It's taken me a while to get here. I am sort of like I'm wading through a little bit of sewage, but unfortunately, AT&T could still be getting a full amount of money from me. I had no problem paying a higher price, but what I guess I couldn't stand for me is the fluctuation in my bill. That more than anything annoyed me with this whole thing about the discounts. Like, okay, you have a 6-month discount. And then 6 months later, my bill would just jump up $20. I would have to call them, and then we have to play this game of going, "Sir, what type of shows do you like? Do you like to watch sports or drama?" And this has gone on for like several years. And finally, as I'm getting older, I fucking snapped on the last lady. She was like, "I go, listen, okay, I don't care about television or the damn shows. I go, I want to pay one price. That's it." And I go, I don't want to go through this game of sitting here. I watch Blue Bloods. I watch Empire.
That's the game they play with you. That's the same exact game they play with me when I was like, listen, I don't know what my package with Spectrum is, but my Time Warner package was cheaper. She was like, well, let's review your package. Let's talk about the shows you like to watch. I'm like, listen, bitch, I like to watch shit on all the networks, okay? I like the shit on network 2014, and I like the shit on network 12, okay? I don't know if I need to explain to you that I like to watch repeats of RuPaul's Drag Race. Why do I have to explain this to you? She was not having it. She was like, well, if you tell me, then we can get you possibly down to a different package. Or we can trade in some of your DVRs. Do you watch DVR on all your televisions? Yes, whore, that's why I have 3 different DVRs. I don't just have 3 different DVRs so I can say, oh, fuck it, let's pay more money. No. I have specific requirements. The problem is, as the corporatization of America becomes more homogenized and they become like bigger and bigger corporations, they care less and less about you as an individual customer and more about whether they can put you on their top tier package as another, top tier package getter or not. And I find that Time Warner as a company, for me, before they turned into Spectrum, was a lot more amenable. But they sold out, of course, like everybody else, and now I'm just fucked. So
I would think for the money that you would pay that you would get a higher level service. I would think that would happen for you.
No. At $271, they don't fucking care. They don't care. So
do you think they break it down in like a hierarchy? Do you think like since I was paying like X package, they put me down like, you know what, he's a low tier, consumer. So I don't know.
The fact that you're down to the $12.99 a month package, I don't think is really getting you a lot of benefits than you were having before. If you're asking, I don't think that's really putting you on the priority list.
Well, I do have a technician coming to my house. It's hilarious because when they start going, "Sir, do you have like a pen and paper to write down this confirmation number?" I'm like, I don't need the confirmation number. You're coming to my house tomorrow. I'll whatever, 4 to 8, I got it. Mm-hmm. Sir, do you have any dogs that you need to put away? I go, listen. I got a podcast starting in 30 minutes. Is my internet going to be working? Can you speed it up? I got all that stuff. Dogs, check.
So did she fix the internet for you that you needed her to fix today, or?
I don't know. You said the pocket calculator. She hit some buttons over in the back.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what she sent over. She probably cut off somebody else's internet in my neighborhood and sent me the extra megabytes.
Well, you know what?
That's
That's not
probably
really
what
our
happened.
problem. Our problem is not really who's getting what. Our problem is, do we get ours? That's our problem. Do we have what we need? And apparently, I'm not having any necessarily technical snafus on this end. You sound perfectly fine. So whatever it was that she needed to do for you, she made it happen. Now, when your
I,
bill comes and it says $365, then you'll know what she did.
you know what? I'll finish this off with, and we'll move on. What was hilarious with the lady that I was talking to when I was getting my service settled, she asked me, point, what was this? What did she say? She goes, "Sir, can I ask why you're cutting down your services with us?" I go, "Oh," and then I went off. I went on one of my tirades that I do with you on this show. I
Really?
went off. I go, I talked for like 2 minutes. And I gave my apologies at the beginning. I go, I'm sorry. I know you're not responsible, but you asked. And then it was like a dissertation. I went over all the things how they were fucking me. Then at that point, at the end, when she kept raising the price and I kept arguing about what the $50 versus 69 versus 70, all this stuff, I go, see, this is why I'm leaving you right here. You tell me one thing and then you give me another price. I go, this type of behavior, I go, I cannot stand. I go, I want to pay one set price and that's it. Now I'm mad. I'm mad. She's taking this calm approach with me. And finally, she said something to me where I think I told you. She goes like this, well, sir, she goes, I think I have a solution. She goes, I can get you your internet. And then she goes, and with you can keep the one box. And I go, I don't want your box. I don't want the TV. But she goes, sir, it could all be for $59. And I go like this, $59? She goes, yes. I go, oh,
They
okay.
always do this to you. You are always like irate when you call them, and they're always like, and it never involves them cutting your bill. It never involves them actually giving you what you called them for. What it involves is them manipulating their services to a price point, keeping what you already have, but making it somehow a price point that you can live with because you're getting more, or you feel like you're getting more or diversion services from them. They never go, you know what, we're going to cut your shit down to $24.99. It's all good. They always go, we're going to give you ultra bonus speed internet. We're going to give you the Playboy channel and Cinemax After Dark, and it's all going to be for $49.97. How does that sound? And you're always like,
Oh,
what? That's
oh,
lovely. I think that's wonderful.
sounds great.
Uh, Meanwhile, you're still paying whatever it was they called you. You called them about paying that you were
Yeah,
pissed off about.
I told you right because I said they told me 50, and then all of a sudden she told me at the max for just the internet, she goes it would be $80, and I said I will not pay $80. I think my quote was, I go, I will eliminate internet, and I will go to the library for my fucking Wi-Fi, and then I go, I will do everything in my life over the next month to find an internet provider that will run my services. That's what I said to her. I put a point blank. I will make it my issue for the rest of this week is to find a better internet service because I go I refuse to pay the $80. And then the package she came up with me was the 59 or $60 plus the one box, and she goes whatever it was, she goes all like for 59, and I said that sounds great. And then with taxes, I think it still comes to $80. So
Yes, they
either way,
always get the amount of money that they want. They just manipulate you into accepting it. Somehow they have like all the power in the world to manipulate all their services. Like they can give you like the top speed internet. They can give everything to you, like every channel they have in like high def and 4K. What they can't do is cut the price. So they will give you whatever they have to give you in order to keep you happy with that price that they are already charging you. But what they won't do is cut the price because they can't. I think that's really the truth.
all right.
Like I told Time Warner or Spectrum or whatever you want to call them, I was like, because this is like an hour two on Friday at work. My boss was staring at me with a stink eye, and I was like, I will cut everything. I will rip every box in my house, out of the wall and bring it down to you if you don't give me the price I want. Okay. So they went back and they were like, playing with the calculator. Let me talk to my supervisor, that game. And she was like, how about we give you our ultra speed internet, the fastest internet we have? And, if it goes any faster, you'll be at Mach speed, and we'll have to call out, like, the U.S. government to make sure that you're not some kind of satellite. And we'll cut off your premium channels that you don't watch anyway, and it'll all be for the price that you were calling about to complain in the first place. But you'll have faster internet and more boxes. Well, okay. That's how they do it.
No, you accepted that deal, right?
Well, of course I accepted it because I want fast internet and I really don't care about the fucking premium channels. And I want to be able to record shit when I want to record it. They know how to get you.
All right, so 30 days from now, when you get your new reissue bill, if they fuck it up again, you're going to have to call back in and go over this whole same thing again, this whole process again.
Yes, until DirecTV gets off their assholes and decides that they're going to start offering a unlimited DVR or a DVR without time limits on it, then I'm going to have to play this game where I have to call them every couple of weeks and go, I can't deal with this. But supposedly, now, again, this is before I found out that the home security system was offline. The way I traded it in this weekend, I'm supposedly cutting $55 off my cable bill every month, which would bring us under like nice. Yeah, well, if it works, it'd be great. But my husband's not going to have a house in which we don't have home security because, we have that bar against the wall, like against the front door, like we live in New York in the fucking heart of Hell's Kitchen.
Yeah. Like, I know. It's like you guys are living in 90210, but he does act like it's like some sort of like deep in the heart of Hell's Kitchen. You're right.
Yes. So when he found out the home security system wasn't working, of course, that was like, what? So if they don't fix that, I'm going to be in the same boat I was in before when I had to hide the cable bill from him that said $271. Because if I had shown him the cable bill that said $271, he would have ripped the boxes out of the wall, and I would have been stuck without doing anything all weekend while he was at work. So,
this is so charged. Okay, well, I'm going to give you a heads up. Mm-hmm. Apparently, I restarted my computer a few times
while we were on the phone.
Oh, no, not while we're on the phone. No, not while we were doing this. Before we started the show, when I was trying to make sure everything was up and running, which seems to be working fine. But in the process, apparently I haven't updated my computer, and I don't know since when. And either way, it's decided to do an update, and it gave me some sort of countdown clock. And
for the update?
What's that?
For the update?
Well, like for it to restart.
Right, you can turn that off.
Well, I hit the button. It didn't give me something like, usually it says, do you want me to restart your computer now or later?
Or later,
and
right.
I always hit later. But it seemed like it just gave me an option of just hiding the clock. Like there was no option for later. So apparently in about 4 to 5 minutes, either we'll continue with the show.
Oh, stop. You've got to be able to stop that countdown clock. There's got to be a way.
I'm hoping it will pop back up to give me another option. Like it'll give me some sort of like warning. I could sit there and hit the delay. I just want to give you a heads up. So when things go dark, it's just that I'll be calling you back.
Okay.
That's all. All right. So let's move on. What do we got? What's going on? Pop it. We haven't done this show since September 10, Bill. There's a lot of crack-a-lackin'. We probably won't be able to get into it all today, but fine. Fuck it. We'll do what we can.
Well, what do you want to start
with? By the way, I want to say thanks to Nadia for her last email. I don't have it in front of me right now, but as always, she's a very good super fan. She's always sitting there like picking out some tidbits, some notes, giving some comments, Yeah,
I mean, she's really the only person that gives us feedback. So obviously we certainly appreciate her writing us and letting us know how she feels, because we wouldn't really know how everybody else likes our show because no one else talks to us. So thank you.
Oh, well, Superfan Carlos sent over, like, he was gave us a topic for the show, whatever else it is.
I didn't hear about this. What is it?
Oh no, he wrote actually his like top 5 movies of all time.
Oh, this is based on the last show? Okay. Well, the last Anyway, go ahead.
Is that okay? His number
It was the
5
top five.
show, it was Master and Commander: The Far Side of the World, which I never
That's his
saw.
#1 movie of all time.
No, no, number 5.
Okay.
Number 4 is Hunt for Red October. Number 3, Gladiator. Number 2, Memento, and number 1, Pulp Fiction.
The only one on that list that I even agree with or would probably have, I do in fact own in my collection, is Pulp Fiction.
Oh, okay. Well, I haven't seen Master and Commander. Did you see it?
I did not.
Okay. I don't know why I haven't, but there was something about it that just didn't seem interesting, but it does make me want to revisit, just visit it. But Hunt for Red October, I love. Gladiator, Memento, Pulp Fiction, I don't have a problem with it. But I guess the whole point was he was mentioning in there about like how looking at somebody's top 5 movie list, how like that says something about the person a little bit, like, the movies that you pick and why you put those as your top movies. Does that say something about you? Like,
I don't know. I kind of think that's, I may have agreed with that in the past, but anymore I kind of feel like that might be overthinking it. I really think everybody's personal taste is really just down to their personal eccentricities or prolifications or whatever word I'm looking for. They're just personal feelings. Like it's sort of like subjective. Like, you could look at one person like, I don't know, Cheryl Tiegs or whatever, and one person will think she's the most beautiful woman ever, and the other person will be like, she's okay. You know what I mean? Like, I think it's down to subjectivity and not necessarily really down to more than just aesthetics.
Yeah, okay. But you think of somehow if I told you my movie list was like number 1 is Psycho, number 2 is Saw, number 3 is Hostel, number 4 is Evil Dead, and number 5 is like the Charles Manson murders, would you be like, oh, gee, that's kind of creepy?
No, there would have been a day when I would have said that. There would have been a day when I would have been like, I don't know what your movie taste says about you, but it kind of creeps me out. But anymore, I feel for me to judge people based on that is sort of, it doesn't work for me because I don't think that I would want people to judge me based on my movie taste, because if I was to be judged, I'm sure that there would be a lot of people, like 98% of people, who would say that, I'm somehow defective because my movie taste is not necessarily what everybody else would choose. But
you're actually working with somebody on the show who would actually say that.
Right. So, but I honestly think it's really down to just personal feelings and emotion and the way these movies make you feel, not necessarily whether they're considered to be by a majority of the population somehow worthy. I don't think that's really not how I choose my movies, and I don't know if that's fair to judge me by, or for me to judge other people by, because I just don't think that. I think it's overthinking it to say that somebody's particular movie taste is indicative of their personality or something.
Fair enough. Deborah, speaking of violent movies, what was the story you were telling? I didn't find it, but it was over in Colorado. What was it that the people who?
There was a woman who was, I don't know what movie she was seeing, but she was in a theater complaining about the racket that a group of teenagers was causing, and she called security, and security came and asked the teenagers to quiet it down, and that was great. And then the security left, and then when the security left, the teenagers who she complained about wailed on her and beat her ass. So
I feel like that's one of those rules like in life where snitches get stitches.
I think it's just a further indication of the breakdown in society. Like, I don't know why you have to go to a movie. Like, I've personally had to complain about several times about rowdy teenagers in movies that we've gone to in the past several years. And, I play it a little bit more savvy than just going, you know what, shut the fuck up. I try to act like, I'm an employee of the theater and that I know people that work there. And if they don't shut up, I'll have them thrown out, which seems to have worked for me to this point. But
well, tonight.
Really? But I don't know. I think it's really indicative of the breakdown in society where, you can't even go to a fucking movie anymore and just sit and fucking watch a movie. these people out there today just want to. Some people just want to watch the world burn, Jay.
I guess so. I'm actually pulled it up. It was in Denver, and I'm looking at her face of the lady that was
With the black eye?
assaulted. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. They really beat the shit out of her face.
Yes.
It's like hamburger. Okay, all right, all right.
But I don't
Okay.
know why. I don't know.
So that doesn't happen for us then. That hasn't
It hasn't
happened.
yet, but who knows? I mean, maybe it'll happen when we go see Thor. Hope
Oh,
not.
that's right. We got Thor coming up. We got Justice League happening. You have to be
Which
getting jazzed.
I'm excited about Thor. I'm watching the original Thor, which seems to be slightly improving upon each. Either I'm accepting it for what it is, which is probably the case, or maybe it's not as bad as I originally thought it was. Either way, I was super excited about Justice League, but that's been somewhat tempered by this weekend's news, which we'll discuss later. I don't know how I feel about Justice League right now. I don't know how I feel about the entire DCEU at this point. I think I'm very sort of mixed, and my feelings are in flux.
I saw the article, but there was also another article that just came out maybe today or yesterday about Jeff Johns saying it's still connected. How about you give the background that
Well,
news story?
the
Go
big
ahead.
news story that broke for this weekend regarding DCEU was that there was a big, long article published on Friday in Vulture.com in which they interviewed Jeff Johns, the CCO, corporate officer of DC Entertainment, as well as I can't even remember the woman's name. I think it's Diane something, who's in charge
Okay.
of the DCEU movie side, and they emphasized that after Wonder Woman, that the DC Entertainment Company has sort of decided to de-emphasize the connected universe theme that they were sort of running with since they did Man of Steel, and that every movie they make is going to sort of be a standalone, not necessarily that it's going to not have the same actors in the parts, but they're going to sort of play down the interconnected universe theme that they sort of seem to be emulating from the MCU for the last several years. And that was a big, big blow for me. When I first read the article, it really upset me. Because as a fan of the MCU and as a fan of the DCEU, what excites me more than anything is that each one of these movies, just like the MCU, isn't just that movie, boom, you're done. It's that this movie has some connective tissue to a larger thematic universe, like that they're all building towards something spectacular. And for the MCU, that was each individual movie, starting with Iron Man. I think it was Iron Man 2, maybe it was even Iron Man 1, in which at the end credit scene, you have Nick Fury come in and tell Tony Stark that you're part of something bigger, you don't even know it yet. And that was like the birth of the modern comic book cinematic universe, which has sort of worked like gangbusters for MCU because everything they make, even though it seems tertiary sometimes, and sometimes you wonder why did they choose this character to tell a movie about, it ends up that these characters end up contributing to a larger picture. Like, Ant-Man was in Civil War, which basically was a de facto Avengers movie. And then, of course, we have the big payoff for all 13 MCU movies next summer with Infinity War, which they've sort of been dropping hints about all through the other 13 movies, 14 movies, whatever.
Well, it's interesting that they kind of I saw it, and I'm hearing what you're saying, and I get the whole idea. I think generally speaking, I like the whole thing that when it's all connected, like everything builds off of one another. But I think this is probably a product of just having their stuff be up and down. I mean, you had Suicide Squad and what you have Batman versus Superman and the whole thing that there's this whole air of studio interference, and then along comes Patty Jenkins with Wonder Woman, big hit, number one, all these things. And so now they're thinking that maybe we should allow some of these directors to kind of run with their visions and not be hampered by trying to force everything into some sort of cohesive long-term plan, which I would argue that I'm not even sure they know where they're going. And not to mention, you add what's his name to the mix. What is it, Matt Reeves for Batman?
Mm-hmm.
So he's already said that they're just going to be telling their separate Batman story, and it just seems like this is almost that they're not even fighting it anymore. Like, okay, I don't know how it's going to work all at the end of the day, because the whole idea is if you're going to have a Justice League, you got to have something that pushes the story forward, which would be the individual properties around it. I don't know if their vision or what they're really doing long term. I don't think they really know what they're doing, to be quite honest with you. I don't have a problem with it. I think it's a problem only when you try to do it for the movies like Justice League. What are you going to do? You're going to do a standalone Batman film, 3 films. You're going to have an Aquaman, Flash. Will these address the big bad? Who's the big bad? What's his name? Darkseid?
Right.
Or is it just going to be like films with them just doing other things and not addressing the other superheroes? And I still think it's unclear.
I'm going to be honest. When I first read the news, I was quite furious because I was on the jock of them building a cinematic universe with all the characters crossing over and meeting an eventuality into Justice League, and then beyond.
Of course.
And then there's Justice League 2. Now, as far as we know, Justice League 2 is in a state of flux. It may have been canceled, it may be postponed, it may be reworked into something else, but when they initially announced Justice League, they called it 2 parts. Now, that's not so different than what the MCU did with Infinity War. When they initially announced Infinity War, it was supposed to be Infinity War Part 1, Infinity War Part 2, a year apart, but they announced them as a 2-piece picture. Well, that plan has changed, and now they've called it Avengers 4 is now called Avengers Untitled 4. It's no longer Infinity War Part 2. So what exactly that means, we don't know yet. We've not yet seen Infinity War Part 1 to see exactly what they're going to do with it or why they've changed Infinity War Part 2 to just Untitled. But, like I said, when I first heard the news about them canceling Justice League 2 or changing the title of Justice League 2, and then this news about them discontinuing their cinematic universe, I was upset. And then I sort of been thinking about this weekend and sort of broke it down a little bit, and in my mind I think, well, in some ways, how is really that so different than the MCU? For example, the MCU talks a lot about how they have built this cinematic universe and how they're all connected and how every movie has a piece or a part leading to another or the next movie. But it's really more talk than it is action in actuality. Like, if you look at all the movies, there really isn't that much connective tissue that really goes between the films. I mean, there are some after credit scenes, starting like we talked about with the Nick Fury scene in Iron Man, where he talks about the Avengers. And then you also have an after credit scene in The Hulk, where Tony Stark talks to what's his name, Betty Ross's father. But
what is his name?
General Ross. Thunderbolt Ross, right. But if you really look at the content of the movies themselves within the MCU, there isn't a whole lot of interconnectivity. I mean, for example, we've discussed this before, but sometimes in the later movies, you start to wonder to yourself, why don't these individual movies after the Avengers, call upon their other friends or their other compatriots that they've sort of fought alongside within Avengers when they have these sort of solo adventures. They don't do a lot of that. And even in the television show, The Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., there's a whole agency, there's a whole team of S.H.I.E.L.D. members. And in fact, the leader of S.H.I.E.L.D., who died in the Avengers 1 movie, is never referenced again in the cinematic universe. Even though he lives and he's out there, you kind of think, shouldn't the Avengers know that Coulson is alive somewhere and he's been doing 4 seasons of this TV show and he's rescuing all these people? It's never referenced. Also in the Marvel Netflix shows, they barely ever reference the cinematic universe. Even though they're all supposed to take place in the same universe, they really don't have a lot of connectivity between the other movies. Yet, it's just accepted amongst fans and moviegoers that this is all part of the same Marvel Cinematic Universe. Well, how is that so different than what DC is talking about, where they're going to have these standalone movies in which the characters are all basically the same actors and the same characters, but they're not necessarily going to reference the other films in the universe. They're not going to exclude or say this is a dimension that is different from the Wonder Woman dimension or the Man of Steel dimension or the Batman dimension, but they're just not necessarily going to cross-reference a whole lot of things that happen in the other movies. When I really thought about it, I don't know if there's a big difference.
Yeah, there's a difference. There's a difference outside of the whole just they seem to be having PR snafus and that they say one thing and then they have to come out and correct it later on. But you have it like with Marvel. I've heard what you said, and to a degree I would agree with you, but also to the point is that some of their stuff, you still know it's all part of the universe and it's pushing the story forward. Like if something happens to Thor in Avengers where he gets his hair cut, and the next standalone Thor movie, his hair is still cut.
Okay, but Jay, I don't know if I would call that interconnectivity.
No, but it pushes the story forward. It picks up events from whatever happened. Sort of like when we got down to, Civil War? Hulk was away, correct?
Sure, and they could still have Superman be away in the DCEU, but Hulk they don't. Yeah, but in Civil War, they never explained where Thor or Hulk was. They never even referenced Thor or Hulk really in Civil War. They just said,
no, but all these stories, individual. The whole point also is you should be able to watch the movie without necessarily having to have a whole lot of knowledge or background.
And that's the whole point of, I think, what the DC universe is trying to do.
No, the way DC is projecting here is we're doing a Batman movie, which will be the same actor and the same character that you've already met, but it'll just be the story. It's almost like this story is non-existent, like there's no even Superman. It's even before the events with the the mother boxes, anything that's happened. This is just him versus Joker or Scarecrow. It's just a side adventure that takes place. Who knows when or how or where that came into his future development. It's just a standalone Dark Knight story.
I think you're wrong.
Wonder Woman was connected because in the end you see the picture and them giving it to Batman, all this other stuff like that. There's more of a connection of it, but the way they're talking, like we're just going to do something that's not going to be pushing the overall story forward. Like the overall story and the whole part of the universe is Darkseid. All these films should be building towards the ultimate bad. And now what they're saying is we're not even going to do that. We're just going to have Aquaman over here do some shit with Manta Ray, which will have no further consequences for anything else that we do. This is just a separate thing. I think at least with Marvel, their stuff still advances an overall story towards Thanos. Everything pushes forward, even though it's an individual story. It's always addressing something to where, like, Thor at the end will sit there and be like, I don't know. I mean, you've got these Infinity Stones in each one of the movies. It all somehow connects because each one deals with an Infinity Stone and they're going to the end with Thanos. You're going to be giving me a Batman and some other movies which I'm fine with, but they're just some standalone. What are you just going to do? You're going to give me a Justice League story that's going to have a Darkseid lieutenant. What's his name?
Steppenwolf.
What's the name?
Steppenwolf.
Steppenwolf, right. That's going to probably be the main guy. So we probably won't really even get to Darkseid, I'm assuming. So what are we going to wait for? The next movie is just going to be Justice League 2? We're just going to pick up right after Justice League 1. So any other individual movie like Flash or something else won't be doing anything like Flash, won't be trying to get faster to go against Darkseid. It'll just be him and some origin story or some side story that has nothing to do with the events of Justice League.
If you look at the MCU, the only time they've ever actually shown you Thanos was in Guardians of the Galaxy 1, which came out in 2014. In which he had a scene that lasted about 2 minutes where he talked about how he was going to crush everyone in the universe that didn't do his bidding. Then you don't see him again until the end credit scene. I think it's in I think it's in Civil War, which is like 4 movies later, where he at the end talks about the glove and how if whatever minion he sent to get the Infinity Stone failed, then he would just do it himself. I mean, there's a big section of people that don't even wait to that end credit scene to see what the hell is going on. So people walk out of that theater not knowing that scene even existed. I think there's not a whole, like I said, Marvel talks a lot about their interconnectivity, but they don't act a lot on their connectivity. And I'm sure that's quite on purpose. I'm sure that they don't want to make it more complicated than that.
Yes. And I think for connectivity in terms of movies, I think they're probably doing the best you can do without sitting there going, if you haven't seen part 37, then how can you go in a movie without seeing the first 36?
Well, that's the whole fucking point of the goddamn movie serial, is that you have to watch the other movies to see what the hell is going on. And if you don't want to watch the other movies, then you're going to miss out. But I think...
Well, that's going to go the way of the comic book, because eventually they're going to have to be like, to reset the world, because they're just going to be like, oh, we've lost too many people who haven't kept with our product. We have to get new fans to start over with number 1. But go ahead.
But they really haven't gotten to that point yet, because every movie they make, even though it's just Ant-Man's turds, still make more money than the last movie. But the quote to actually quote from John, and it's Diane Nelson, by the way, who is the other person who's the head of DC Entertainment, from the article, John says, quote, "The movie's not about another movie. Some of the movies do connect the characters together, like Justice League, but like with Aquaman, our goal is not to connect Aquaman to every single other movie." Then Diane Nelson says, "Moving forward, you will see the DC movie universe still being a universe, but one that comes from the heart of each filmmaker who's creating them. Everyone was excited about Joss being a part of DC, and we thought he'd be great to write Justice League. So the additional photography scenes that we added in the end were just to get more action and more of what people wanted." Okay, so I don't know that they're saying, they're not saying every movie of Batman is going to have like, a George Clooney versus a Val Kilmer versus a Michael Keaton. And it's going to each be its own separate universe. I don't know they're going that far. They're saying you're not going to necessarily have to, and it's kind of true for the MCU. You don't necessarily have to have seen every movie in the DCU to understand what happens in the Batman movie, because the connections are going to be somewhat tertiary. Now, I had hoped when the DCU was first announced that they were going to be more interconnected than the MCU. That's true. I was sort of looking forward to them building a truly interconnected universe, because I'm a geek and I see all these movies and I can't wait for everyone to I love this, the shit I love about them is that they are a bigger part of the universe. And even in Suicide Squad at the beginning, when they have Amanda Waller walking into her office building, they have the guy on the street corner selling the t-shirts of, Superman after his death in Man of Steel, or what is it? Batman versus Superman, I kind of was like, that's so fucking cool. Yeah, I wanted that. But if I'm not going to get that, I'm not thrilled about it, but I don't know if I'm as angry about it as when I first read this, thinking they're just going to make it totally standalone. Because if I really think about it, the MCU isn't really all that more connected anyway. And I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I find that I hear what you're saying. I don't have a problem with what they're doing. I don't think you can sit there and downplay what Marvel has done because it's set the tone for a whole thing that people are trying to build upon from this whole like monsters universe as well as DC. They're all trying to follow in their footsteps. And the only reason why there's even this break from DC is because they're having trouble mimicking what Marvel is doing. So what they're doing is like, you know what? We can't run as fast or as well as Marvel. So how about we just change our formula around and maybe start to do something a little bit different than so we can survive. That's what it is. Because if their shit was working fine, they wouldn't be changing the wheel now. All of a sudden now like Patty Jenkins and Matt Reeves want to do their own thing and they're like, fuck it. We've tried to do it our way and it's just not working. So maybe we should just switch it up a little bit. That's what it seems. It seems as a result of their failures that they're going down this path.
Well, I'm not going to disagree with you as far as what they expected their universe to do versus what it ended up doing. You know, the one saving grace for them that we have is Wonder Woman, and that is probably the least connected of their movies. And they're taking maybe notes from that to say, well, for us, it doesn't seem to work that we connect everything. And I agree that it's sort of abandoning their overall concept. And I honestly, if you ask me my prevalence, I wish they wouldn't. I wish they would stick to their guns and just go about it doing what they have been doing. But if audiences haven't responded, and for the most part, Wonder Woman aside, and audiences, we would even say aside, we'll say critics haven't responded, because audiences did respond to Batman versus Superman. They did respond to Man of Steel. They did respond to Suicide Squad. Maybe not to the level that DC and Warner Brothers thought they would get to, and that is probably an issue. And certainly the critical drubbing that those movies received is an issue for Warner Brothers and DC. When you have everything that Marvel shits out become a critical and audience darling, I imagine that that does become something of a thorn in their sides. Okay. Again, this is not my preference. I would prefer for them to stay their course and do what they do and make it separate from the DC or the MCU and connect the universe more even than the MCU is connected. I wanted that. I was down for that. I was all with that plan.
But my last comment on this is I just don't see how this really works, because what you had is you had Man of Steel, then you had Batman versus Superman, which seems sort of like a precursor to Justice League, if you will, where it introduced Wonder Woman and we got an introduction to Ben Affleck's Batman. It's sort of in the Superman vehicle, to be quite honest with you. That's what it should have been, Man of Steel 2. But then we had a Wonder Woman movie that was an origin film, which got us to know the character a little bit more, which was very cool and I enjoyed. Then we're going to have a Justice League film. And then we're going to get introduced to the Flash as well as Cyborg. My confusion
after Aquaman.
And Aquaman. There you go. And then after that, we're going to break up into these characters. Now, if we're going to be doing more a Wonder Woman story, my concern is you still need like a movie in between like Justice League, unless you're going to flow straight into Justice League 2, like a gap. Like, are we just going to pick up right at the end of Justice League 1? I mean, are all these other characters, we're just going to do side stories for them that don't necessarily impact the Justice League storyline? Are you going to have some sort of other intermediary or some other stories individually? Like I don't know, like Star Wars, like little gaps stories.
They're going to do standalone films that do not have anything to do with the main universe.
We're just going to go from Justice League 1 to Justice League 2 to Justice League 3, and then all these other heroes we want to anything that happens in those stories have no impact on this Justice League storyline then.
They will have minimal impact on the Justice League storyline, just as if you really think about it, whatever happened in Iron Man 2 or Ant-Man or Captain America Civil War doesn't really have any impact on what happens in Avengers Age of Ultron. It really doesn't. When you really think about the plots of those movies, there really isn't a whole lot of
Yeah, but I feel as though
ramification.
like there's something that you see the characters grow and change on their stories because your stories seem to be happening at the same time these events are in Ultron. They're not happening like 100 years ago or 50 years ago. It's happening concurrently. So by the time you get to like an Avengers thing, like they're at a different phase than they were from the first Avengers movie. Like they've changed and it's
Right, but
reflective
they
in
never
the movie.
they don't ever reference the events of those other movies. They never talk about, well, in Iron Man 3, Tony had a crisis of conscience, and that's why he now decides that he wants to correct all the mistakes he's made with Pepper and so forth, and get out of the superhero game and create an army of robots to sort of take us away from having to be the world's defenders. They never really explain any of that. If you haven't seen Iron Man 3, you wouldn't really understand why Tony is doing that.
Well, if you've seen Iron Man 3, you already know that. Why do they have to sit there and say it again for you?
Because there's a lot of people out there who want to see an Avengers movie that never saw Iron Man 3. And those people are like, what? They don't want to have to reference what happened to that in that other movie or the other 3 movies in the series in order to make this other movie that more people or maybe other people will see. I get the impetus of it. It's sort of trying to have their cake and eat it too. They want to have storyline development between movies for people who have seen the whole universe. They want to enrich all of that. It's sort of like me with Star Wars and the Clone Wars. I eat up the Clone Wars because I know the surrounding material around it, and that series enriches those films and the characterizations and the portrayals of them. But there's a lot of Star Wars fans who've never seen one episode of the Clone Wars and don't necessarily need to see the Clone Wars in order to enjoy Star Wars on a level. But in order to enjoy it on a deeper, more richer level for myself, the Clone Wars enriches those surrounding films for me. But it's not necessary for other people to have seen them to enjoy the movies. I think that's the what they're going for.
Okay. All right. Let's move on.
Okay.
Are we move on? What else we want to talk about here?
I don't know what else you got.
Well, we could talk about should I do a little bit of a light filler before we get into something more heavy again?
Sure.
All right, let's go two small light filler things here. We didn't talk about the Hellboy picture starring David Harbour of Stranger Things. Just quickly, 2 minutes on it. David Harbour, go ahead.
I think he looks a little hippie-ish. I think the original Hellboy looked better, if you ask me.
Wow. It's interesting that both the original with Ron Perlman as well as this new version of David Harbour, it's very similar. Like, you have to give, like, kudos to, Toro? Like, there's not much changes.
It's a very distinctive character. It's not like you can just change him to purple or brown skin. I mean, everybody knows what Hellboy looks like, right?
But I mean, I guess it says something like they were on it back then and they're still on it. The one with David Harbour, he just looks more jacked. He looks
okay.
More jacked.
It's still. I think actually Ron Perlman's body was real. I'm pretty sure David Harbour's, even though he's been working out and stuff. You can't possibly change what David Harbour looked like into what he looks like. You could tell that that's body molding or whatever.
Not a problem.
Besides, it's not really a problem for me, except I find it to be somewhat unnecessary. I don't know why they needed to reboot Hellboy. The movie's not that old, and I have fond memories of the first 2 movies. I don't know that movie trilogy or series was completed. So I don't know what's so different about this Hellboy that they're going to offer that the original couldn't do as a continuation.
Okay.
I find it somewhat
So
unnecessary.
okay, you're loyal to Ron Perlman right now. Fair to say.
Okay, sure.
Okay. All right, here we go. Here's the other light filler story before we get into the another major one.
Well, what do you think about it? Do you think it looks like, oh, this looks like so much better than the first one, and I can't wait to see what they do with this? Or do you feel like, well, okay.
No, I think the original Hellboy with Ron Perlman, I like the costume and I like the look. I don't have a problem with it. I think it will stand the time. And when I look at it, I'm like, this is a fair representation of the character. And then when I saw David Harbour's version of it, what they did, it still has the same characteristics as Perlman's. It's just that he looks a little bit more intimidating, a little bit more serious, a little bit more muscular. And I'm cool with that. Like, it's just like, okay, it's enough change, but still keeping its toe in what the character is supposed to be. So I'm fine with it. Like, I'm open minded to like this new change. You know, like
to me, if you're going to change something, if you're going to update something, if you're going to say, we need to reboot this to make it more relevant to current people or current times, then it's got to be aesthetically a change to where you go, oh, I get it. The last one was okay, but they've got better techniques now and they've got better ways of doing things now, and this one just looks so much better. And when I look at those pictures, I don't see that there's so much of a difference where I go, oh, I get it. That's why they're redoing it.
Which is a compliment to the first two movies.
Or an insult to the new one, which is more my point. My point is more of this is not necessary than a compliment to the first one.
What? It's not necessary that we have another Hellboy movie?
No, it's not necessary that we reboot the Hellboy movies we already have.
Right. You're right. That's right. You just want to let's go with the third one and keep Perlman in it.
Right.
We don't need to do this.
Perlman was perfect as Hellboy. I don't know. I'm sure David Harbour will be fine. I wonder if David Harbour hadn't done Stranger Things, which is a critical darling at the moment, that he would have gotten the part.
Oh, that's so true. That's the way it is. When you're hot, you're hot. You start to cash in. You got to cash those checks.
Well, what makes me sad is that, Ron Perlman was asked about how he feels about the Hellboy reboot, and his emotions are so raw, apparently. He just said, I don't wish to comment on it. So.
Ooh, no comment is a comment. Somebody's not building that new west wing of their house, I guess. All right. Now, this story here, just a quick filler, Bill. Apparently on AMC, their show Fear the Walking Dead, which I don't watch, by the way. I've watched maybe the first, I probably got through several episodes of the first season. I don't watch the show, hate the show, don't like The Walking Dead, whatever else is. But in one of their latest episodes, they use the F word. Okay.
I heard about that.
Okay. Now, it's apparently not the first time that AMC has allowed the use of the F word. They used it in their show Preacher and Halt and Catch Fire. But it's the first time, I guess, in the Walking Dead series that they pushed the language envelope this far. And apparently, according to one of the showrunners, quote, you get a specific number of curse words you can say, and there's a list of what you can't and can't do. So apparently there was a memo that says they can use the word now fuck twice over the course of an entire season. And that maybe this is likely to happen in their other show, the hit The Walking Dead. I guess my point is saying this here for me. Maybe you have a different take or a different view on it. I find it interesting when the language starts to enter in some of these. I don't know. Am I correct in saying maybe like a broadcast show? I don't know.
It's not broadcast. It is cable. I mean, it's not premium, but it is cable.
Whatever it is, it's like I remember when they used to say the word. What is it? Was it ass or bitch on Roseanne? They said
was it Dick Splash? Was that the word that you're worried about? Dick Splash.
Okay, all right. But listen, for some reason you don't have this thing with language and on television and with children, and I feel like it's some sort of a commentary on society when we start generally using words that are considered more guttural, more like of a lower end on like shows more freely. Like when I watch an R-rated
Grandpa.
show,
Listen, Grandpa.
listen, when I watch an R-rated movie or whatever else and they swear and do whatever, I'm cool with it. But I feel like when some of these other things, like when they start just putting them out there, like on Roseanne, when they started using the word, I think it was bitch or something else. I was sitting there going like this, oh my.
That was 1992, by the way. And that was 30 fucking years ago.
Now look where we're at. Now we're just using fuck. We can use 2 fucks for the entire season, huh? For this
Are we going to act
third season? We can use the word fuck.
Are
I mean,
we really,
is that really progress as society?
Yes.
I mean,
are we really going to act like Donald Trump isn't the president, and that he doesn't say on a quote that's broadcast across network television for all the children to hear that these women can just be grabbed right in the pussy and they won't do anything about it because you're a celebrity? Are we going to act like that's not the world we live in? Okay.
I believe they bleeped that out, but that's fine.
Okay. That's fine, but everybody knows with the word P and the ... between the Y, everybody knows what word that is because kids in first grade know how to spell. Okay? So
that's so sad that there's actually a memo that goes, hey, by the way, what can we not do? We can't use the word shit, titty bomb, fuck, asshole. We can't use those. Oh, wait, we got a new memo from the network higher ups. We can use the word fuck twice for our entire season. Really? That has to be a discussion? Is it?
Listen, Grandpa, again, it's time for you to move into the 21st century. Let's not act like we don't live in a world where every child under the age of 5 hears their mother and daddy talk about the word fuck in their homes. They don't hear their playground friends talk about the word fuck on the playground while they're playing games. This is a world in which everything goes. I mean,
we're aware of this, but every person knows with the children that they know more than what they let on, and they get exposed to more. But you wanted them to somehow enjoy their youth and be not tainted. You don't just pull up like all the violent news stories because they hear about violence from their friends. You just try to protect and hide and and just nurture them, allow them to grow without being so tainted and influenced by what's going on.
Here's a way to allow them to grow without being tainted. How about you don't let children of a certain age watch a show called Fear of the Walking Dead? There's an idea. Okay, let's not have the children watch a show about people eating other people if you don't want them to be So let me get this right. It's okay for them to watch the show where the dead people eat the faces off the other people as long as they don't say the word fuck. You're fine with it. Really?
Listen, I always have it. There's major differences. Everybody's got their cross to bear in their fights. I don't necessarily have an issue with violence, but language and sex. You're right. You're right. I'm not complaining about them chewing off people's faces and ripping out their innards.
Right.
Okay, fair enough, Bill. Your point is made, but that's not my fight. I don't have a problem with the violence. I don't know. Whatever it is, it's the language.
I don't understand why. Because you know what? I know why. I'm not going to say it on the show. Why?
We're going to watch Kathy Lee and Hoda in the morning, and then Kathy Lee's going to be like, Hoda, how you like your fucking drink? And she's like, oh, this fucking drink is delicious, Kathy Lee.
These bitches drink wine out of juice boxes every morning on the TV. You don't think that's inappropriate? These whores at 9 o'clock in the morning are sucking down wine out of a juice box, and you think that's okay?
It's very stressful what they do, Bill. It's very stressful, okay?
Okay? Here's an idea. If you're a parent who doesn't want your child exposed to this shit, I've got 2 words for you. Home school. Because that's exactly what I would do with mine. Because this world is off the chain. And I thank God every day that He made me gay and that my babies don't live, because this is a world I would not want them to be growing up in.
Oh, that's so funny. Oh, that's hilarious.
That's true.
Homeschooling, huh?
Every day I go to work and I listen to these women talk about these stories about, and the kids that we have in our program, and I listen to how they behave and what happens to them, and I clutch the pearls every day, because I think to myself, if I had a child, the first thing I would do is pull them out of the school. And I work for a decent school district. We have decent, really good, of course we got an F on the state exams, but a lot of school districts got that. But I'm just saying, it's considered to be a better than average school district, and I still wouldn't send my child to that school or any of these schools.
Not sure that.
Or even Catholic school. This world is out of control every day. I don't know why we've got on this, but I'm glad I don't have children. That's all I can say.
Oh, I was going to tell you the story that happened last night. But I'll do it for a PCP podcast after dark. I'm not going to mention the story. Yeah, I'll tell you it later. But anyway, let's go with some other news here. I know you were waiting to discuss this. We still haven't got to the little Star Wars part here. We haven't mentioned that since the last show. But Harry Knowles. Harry Knowles of Cool News.
Do we have to talk about this?
For the people out there, I guess, how do I want to say?
I don't even know who the hell Harry Knowles is, Jay.
There's some of our listeners who don't know who Harry Knowles is. It's fair to say. We have some listeners who actually listen to our show to become educated.
Okay.
If you will. And then there are others who we're probably pronouncing Harry Knowles wrong. They know him so well. He's like Harry Noel or something like that. But either way. Ain't It Cool News? I don't know. One of the earliest geek websites out there.
It's the grandfather of all modern geek movies. It's kind of like the reason why we have geek movie film news now. It's the reason why we have sites like /film and
First Showing,
First Showing. Yeah, this is the granddaddy of them all. It started in the early 90s, and it sort of ushered in the age of the geekdom. I would almost venture to say the reason why we're in this current state of geek movie nirvana was started with Ain't It Cool News.
Right. He gave a fan to the people who were over there, sitting there playing with comic books, watching movies, and doing sort of gaming stuff like that. And instead of looking at Casablanca, you were looking at Evil Dead and some other shows that spoke to a certain group of people.
Yes, I honestly think Harry Knowles and what he did with Ain't It Cool News is underrated and responsible for the modern age of cinema that we are enjoying right now. I really do believe that.
I was interested reading the article how at its highest point it was bringing in revenue of over $700,000 a year from his website. I mean, that's a lot of cheddar. A lot of cheddar for him and his business. I'd be curious to look at the books of how they generated the cash, how they paid it out, and everything else like that. But anyway, apparently those things have come to a crashing halt, if you will. Do tell.
Well, Harry has been publicly accused of sexual harassment against several female blogger websites, going through his main, I guess, movie-going theater place, the Alamo Drafthouse in Austin, Texas, where he lives, which is considered now the top chain for hardcore film geeks to go see movies at. And apparently for years and years and years, dating back almost 20 years, Harry has been using his, he's accused of using his geek cachet to sort of subvert social norms by inappropriately touching or rubbing against or making other women film goers uncomfortable with his untoward attention to them. And once the dam breaks, of course, everyone comes out of the woodwork. I guess a woman a couple of weeks ago wrote an article, I forget what site she wrote it for, in which she accused him of sexually harassing her. And then like 3 or 4 other women came out and said, yeah, he's been doing the same thing to me. And because he's so influential, I never brought it up, but it always made me creeped out. And once that news broke, a lot of places that were affiliated with Ain't It Cool News and sort of used Ain't It Cool News as, you know, their purview into getting a wider viewership or readership or whatever. And a lot of people who worked for Ain't It Cool News quit. A lot of the, like I said, affiliates of his, like the Alamo Drafthouse, cut all ties with him. The Austin Film Critics Society, of which Harry was a member, rejected him or kicked him out of the club or what have you. And so now Harry's taken to stepping down of his role from the head geek of Ain't It Cool News and allowed his sister to sort of take over while what he said was he was going to go in for reevaluation and some rehab and to reevaluate his life. He didn't deny these allegations. He actually did deny them and said he didn't have anything to do with them. But after that, he did step down and said he was going to go in for rehab and stuff. So you kind of don't know exactly what's the truth. We probably won't ever know, really.
I hear you. I guess it is interesting to get this far and then, to have these things come out, because what ended up happening when this story broke is like they started dropping him, like his supporters. What is it, the Alamo Drafthouse or
right?
Certain entities that were lock and step with Harry Knowles, like they just started dropping him. Like, these allegations are horrific, and we're now removing him from our board, and we're no longer associated with him. Like it just happened instantaneous. So I don't know if there was like any sort of investigation or looked into it, or was it just word of mouth, or these people who were accusing.
I don't know how you investigate something that's supposedly happened almost 20 years ago.
I guess the problem that I have, I mean, assuming that it's, true, then, those are the consequences of your behavior. But assuming, like, due process, I guess in this day and age, if you're part of the world of the internet, your due process is meted out to you within seconds of the allegation hitting the Twitter. And that's what seemed to happen for him.
Well, it's the court of public opinion, and, Harry has clearly lost the public trust.
Yeah. What's interesting now is, do you use the Ain't It Cool News website as much as you used to back in the day?
Ain't It Cool News has not been what it used to have been for several years now. I mean, like I said, it is the grandfather of modern day film movie news, going all the way back to, the prequel era with episode 1, really. Maybe even before that. I think it was created in 97, the Ain't It Cool News site. But that was at a time when there wasn't all these other news sites that are, currently built on the structure that Ain't It Cool News created. So no, for a while, Ain't It Cool News has not been as necessary as it was back in the day. But to be honest, for my personal self, I do feel a certain kinship with Harry Knowles. I do feel, a certain viewpoint of film that he has is one that I share. He looks at films and he feels like films give him sort of like that childlike feeling of amazement and wonderment. And I look at films a lot similarly. Like, that's the reason why I love the films I love, is because they give me this feeling of like, when I was a kid. And I think that unlike a lot of modern day film critics who I feel like end up bitter and jaded and not liking a lot of movies because, one, they have to see a lot of bullshit, and two, they just feel like they've seen everything that's already out there, and so everything that's out there, there's just a pale imitation of something that was done before. I feel like Harry is able to maintain that sort of like optimistic or open-mindedness that a lot of film critics today lack. So yes, I still read it for Harry's reviews, really, that's really all I read it for anymore. And for film news or movie news, there's a lot of other sites that have sprung up in the wake of Ain't It Cool News that provide that information more timely for me. So yeah, I don't use it the way I used to, but I still read it, and I still consider it to be the grandfather of film news. Yeah.
You know, you got me onto Ain't It Cool News website long ago, and I've noticed that over the time over here, the past couple years, that for me, that it's just hasn't been as update or on the cutting
Right.
edge as fresh as it once was. And I imagine that's as a result of being pulled in different directions and doing different things. And also there's the fact is that now it's a cottage cheese industry. Like there's so many websites out there now. I mean, that are generating information and trying to get the latest, um, comments or breaking news out there. It's a tough world.
Right.
It's
But the
cool
thing
that he was
that
able to
gets
be
to
there on the
me,
ground floor, but I mean, what do you say? You can only fly so high for so long.
yeah, the thing that gets to me though is how soon people forget. Before Ain't It Cool News, there was no slash film. There was no first showing. There was no every time you turn around superhero movie being given $150 million budget or $200 million budget. There was no DCEU. There was no MCU. There was no sort of voice of the film geek that sort of rules Hollywood right now. Ain't It Cool News ushered in the phase that we're in right now, and people completely disregard that it is basically single handedly responsible for what we have as our cinematic universe today. And I'm not trying to overplay him or give him more credit than he's due, but I know because I was there. I know the world we lived in. I know I worked in a movie theater when Ain't It Cool News was first created. I know that there was the Batman, Tim Burton / Joel Schumacher universe, and then there was nothing. For years, nothing. And I do feel like Ain't It Cool News gave us the what we have now. And I'm not saying that you're allowed to do whatever you want because you are responsible for the creation of a film genre or for any other reason. You can't just abuse people. But again, he's denied these allegations, and I don't know whether they're true or not. But I do feel like that people who worked for him for 20 years and people who associated with him for 20 years didn't wait a whole lot of time before they jumped ship and disassociated themselves with him, which I feel was a little bit unfair.
Okay. Moving on. Moving on. Moving on. What do you want to talk about? There's Star Wars.
What do we have to talk about with Star Wars?
I don't think we talked about it last time that your boy J.J. Abrams is back.
We didn't talk about this? That's ages ago, it seems like.
It seems like it? No, I don't think we did.
So, are you sure we didn't talk about Colin Trevorrow being fired? Maybe we talked about Colin Trevorrow being fired, but JJ hadn't jumped on yet.
No, I don't think we got to J.J. because technically what I do is I keep the news stories when they pop out. I put them in my little folder, and it's based on date. And so when I see where it hits in the folder, then I'm like, our last show was on September 10th. So any news stories after September 10th, I'm assuming that we didn't touch upon. And this was one of the stories. Okay. I know we talked about it off the air, but we never got a chance to really discuss it on the show that J.J. Abrams is back, bitches.
I'm excited about it. I'm not the biggest J.J. Abrams fan, or, I'm certainly not going to put him on the level of Spielberg or Lucas or whatever. But I'm not going to argue that he re-energized the Star Wars universe because, quite frankly, I feel like he thoroughly, completely did. I'm not 100% or 150% on board with every decision he made with The Force Awakens, but for 90% of it, I feel like he was spot on. In particular, he gave us a new generation of characters to fall in love with. And no matter what I say about the prequels, which I did enjoy, I can't say that those characters or those actors portrayed those characters in a way that made me fall in love with Star Wars all over again, completely the way I did with The Force Awakens. So that JJ is coming back to sort of complete the story that he rebooted in tremendously successful ways for me is exciting. I'm very excited about what, given The Force Awakens, what he will do with the completion of this trilogy. So I'm all on board with it.
Yeah, you know what? Clearly, trying to play in the Disney sandbox with Kathleen Kennedy is not for the faint-hearted, and obviously, Colin Trevorrow fell to this whole thing of like, I'm trying to do my thing, but it just didn't fit with it. Bringing back J.J. Abrams, who was able to successfully launch this new era of Star Wars film, I'm fine with it. I'm actually fine with it. My only caveat is that I hope that in this time around for this episode 9, that we will try to, which is what I'm hoping that 8 will do, is that 9 we will stretch it a little bit more, that we don't go over, like we start to expand, do things a little bit more original and creative. Like don't rehash what would be like essentially Return of the Jedi for me. I need you to move forward with the story, wherever that may be. So that's what I'm hoping from him.
I hope there's no more Death Stars. No Death Stars. That's what I hope.
Well, yeah. Well, yes, and I'm assuming that I would like to think that these things, if they're reading the blogs and the commentary sections and taking them to the higher ups, that this goes into like the meetings and going like, we've got to move past this, come up with something new. And I'm just hoping for that. I think he did a good job of blending, which we went over ad nauseum, the past and bringing it in there as a shout out and moving forward with the new characters. I think he blended it as best as anybody could have done. But now I think you've got to take that and move forward. But whatever.
I also hope, beyond hope, that whatever conclusion they come up with for Princess Leia, and Rian Johnson has already gone on record saying that it's going to be emotionally satisfying for fans. I hope that that's true. My worst scenario, as we've already discussed several episodes back when she originally first died with Carrie Fisher, is that I don't want to recast. I don't want them to recast her. I'm sorry, but this woman is established as this character for an entire, actually 2 generations of film goers. She is, in my opinion, irreplaceable. And that's not to say she's the best actress that ever walked the earth, but it's to say some characters just can't be recast. And I really feel like Princess Leia is one of them. And beyond recasting, they're left with a couple of options. Either they kill her off screen, which again does not seem satisfactory to me after following her story and the importance of her story as a character into this version of Star Wars. I really feel like the only way for them to do it is to do the CG. And, I'm not one for CG generated characters, and I thought that one that they did in Rogue One was a little bit wonky. But given time, and, this movie's now pushed back 6 months since JJ took over, that gives him even more time. I really think the only way to do it justice is really to either CG her, or use some kind of old footage and maybe rework it. I don't know. So I hope that, whatever it is they decide, that it does end up with something that feels organic and something that feels earned and something that feels like it's not a cop-out or some kind of compromise that they had to work around because she unfortunately died.
Okay. Are you ready to move on?
Sure.
Bill, there's a couple things here. There's a couple of things left before we get the box office mojo, unless you want to throw something out there. I watched some things here briefly. You have yet to watch the Tomb Raider trailer, I'm assuming?
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be on my urgent must-watch trailer list.
I watched. I hesitate to use the word "watched" with you because I didn't really watch them. I've kind of fast forwarded through and then finally ejected. But I put on the movies of Baywatch and Transformers: The Last Night.
I want to know, first of all, before you even give me the review, which I'm sure I have a generalized idea of what it's going to be, when you popped in Baywatch, did you actually think you were going to get? Because if you go with Baywatch, the original show, it's nothing but garbage and filler and, fluff. Which, I'm not saying is a negative. For me, sometimes you want fluff. I'm okay with that. But I know how you feel about fluff. And I know how you feel about comedy that seems to be forced or unnecessary. So I wondered to myself, why would he even rent this?
I feel you. And I think part of it is sometimes, like, let's say, like, are they doing like a Knight Rider movie reboot or something like that? A Knight Rider
I don't
movie?
know. I think
Either way, some of these shows on television, like Melrose Place and Knight Rider and Baywatch, sometimes it's just like one of those things that just hits a tone with me. You know that they're campy and that it's a little bit ridiculous, but you find some sort of enjoyment in it. Okay. Now, I guess the Baywatch movie, I was hoping for that maybe if they're trying to do it, this would be like an upgrade in some
hello?
sort of like maybe in humor or not something so basic that I would get from the television show. Because I don't need it to be a movie. You need to upgrade it for me a little bit. Take it to another level than what it was. Either way, after watching Baywatch as well as Transformers, I'm not going to get into the plot of either one because I can give a shit less. It made me lose. These are like some of the things that are currently going on for me that would actually make me stop wanting to watch movies. This is what those things did. When I started watching it, it just made me want to weep for the directors and the people involved. I understand what you always tell me that the people aren't trying to make crap movies, but what I'm seeing for myself, just watching it, it was so painful. It's just instantaneously painful. I can't describe it. It's just like I'm shocked. I'm just shocked. Now, obviously, somebody's enjoying it, some of this stuff here, but it can't be me. It cannot be me, and I've got to do a better idea. So I'm trying to keep an open mind. That's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to keep an open mind.
By watching this crap, you're trying to keep an open mind. Is that what you're saying?
Well, sometimes you know this. You know this. Sometimes I thought movies were crap, and then I watched them afterwards, and I was like, oh, that was actually somewhat enjoyable. I would never have guessed it from that 2-minute trailer. It was going to be like this. I keep trying to think that I'm going to be pleasantly surprised, but unfortunately, with these two properties here, I think the only thing you said to me that was correct, that if all the other 4 Transformer movies before that were crap, why did I think the 5th one was going to be different, especially when they had the same like cast and director and crew? You are probably right on that one.
Did you watch the Baywatch series as a show?
No, I think I maybe watched an episode or two.
Okay,
But it had The Rock. I thought it was going to be something that was going to be a different take. You know, it's like 21 Jump Street with Channing Tatum and what's his name? Um, just lost some weight. What is his name? I can't think of his name right now. You know, that was fun. 21 Jump Street was fun. Um, sometimes they can
Jonah Hill?
What's his name?
Jonah Hill?
Jonah Hill. Exactly. That movie with Ice Cube. That movie was enjoyable.
It's
a little bit different.
Baywatch.
I
Really?
I can't. I can't. All right. Let's go with the last story quickly before we get into Box Office Mojo, which is coming right out here. I saw that 20th Century Fox is now pushing for an Academy Award for James Mangold's Logan. Apparently, they sent out some sort of DVD screeners to the voters.
They do this all the time. They did this with X-Men. Okay, I'm not saying that Logan is not better than X-Men or that Logan doesn't deserve an Oscar nomination, but these movies, as classically speaking, just don't get Oscar nominations. And maybe Logan will be the one to break the mold. I hope it is. I wouldn't count on it. I'm just saying. I'm not saying it doesn't deserve it. I'm saying it just doesn't classically.
You know where I'm at on the record for this. I just don't feel like any of these movies themselves, for me, what my view of the Academy Awards is, they're not walking through the door. But what I will allow, to be quite honest with you, is an acting award, like a best acting for one of the characters. You know, what's his name?
That
Hugh
in
Jackman.
itself would be a
Uh,
first. I
Well,
don't think it's going to happen.
okay. It may not happen, but I think I would allow my open mind, an open mind for that to be something I would consider. I just don't think these are the type of movies that, for me, generate what I would consider to be Best Picture nominations
I
or
agree with
Academy
you. First
Award.
of all, I'm not going to say what I would consider to be best picture.
Oh,
I think
sure.
I think anything can be considered a best picture. If I like it and I think it's worthy, then I'm not going to say, "Oh, well, it just doesn't meet the standard of something" or so forth. I just think there's a there's a bias against certain types of films. And even though Logan sort of was a genre smasher, if you will, in certain ways, I still think the fact that it's about a guy who has claws that come out of his hands is not going to help its case for Academy Award winning. Now, if you have, what's that woman that looks like a turtle? That
Looks
black
like a
woman,
what?
that woman that looks like a turtle, that black lady, Olivia,
Oh
what's her
yeah,
name?
you're talking. What's her name? Is it Olivia? Was it? What's it?
Octavia Spencer.
Octavia.
Now,
There
if
you
you
go.
have Octavia Spencer playing some wizened, old, like babysitter, like kind of like aunt or wizened like woman librarian that knows all about like the past slavery issues and stuff, then your movie can be considered Oscar worthy. But if you have a dude, no matter how good or badass he is, who runs around with metal claws, you're out of the running.
Yeah.
I don't think
Yeah,
that's
I pretty much think any movie where they're cutting the trailer and somebody's saying like this, "Oh, that's a bat suit. I get it." That takes you immediately out of the running. That's
does it.
that's it.
But you can have Octavia
One-liners.
Spencer talking about, baby, I haven't seen this much love since I was at my mama's knee back in the night when the slavery times was happening. Let me get
You
you a
know
cup of coffee, darling. That
Listen. If she does it in a way to where I believe it's great acting, then she gets nominated. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. That's just the way it is, Bill. That's the way it is.
it's
Okay.
nonsense, Jay. Is all I'm saying. It might be the way it is, but it's nonsense.
Okay, whatever. I'll just get us 2 tickets to the Saturn Awards for you. Okay, that's what I'll
Please
do.
do, because I'm going to tell you, I'm going to fanboy the fuck out at the Saturn Awards just with the nominees list alone, much less who wins. And at the Oscars, I'm going to be like this. I didn't see any of these movies, and honestly, I really don't give a fuck about any of them.
You know, we're gonna move on here, but I have Ferg in studio along with Scooties,
Sure.
and Ferg threw up in the bed last night, not once
Aw,
but twice.
that
And
sucks. Did you feed him
yeah,
something different?
no, it's just his food, but sometimes he just gets sensitive with it. But usually he's not smart enough like Scooties. I mean, Scooties is walking around looking like what's one of those classic actors from old Cary Grant. That's how Scooties is rolling around with the
Really?
ascot.
Because I think Scooties looks more like Sasquatch than Cary Grant, but okay.
Oh no, he's got a haircut.
Oh,
This
good.
is what we got Scooties a haircut, but didn't give Ferg a haircut.
Oh, that's nice. That's really what. And what was the reasoning behind that? Oh, right. You
Because
just like Scooties more.
no, because Scooty's hair grows and sheds more. Ferg is a Bichon, so his hair doesn't like shed or grow as much. He just looks like a
Right.
little
So
puppet.
when he gets up and his head is on the pillow and his face is all smushed to one side and he just looks at you with those innocent eyes and goes, "Do I look pretty?" You just lie to him and go, "Yes, Ferg, you're pretty."
Well, that's exactly what happened this morning. We looked over at him because my woman was over, and he just looks like some sort of just mangy dog. He's just looking like he just rolled out of the garbage thing. His hair is all matted. You're just looking at him. He's rubbed his face and his vomit, and so it's like I still have to give him a bath, and he's sitting in studio, and I can just still smell it. I can just smell it.
Oh,
I'm
that's
just
so
looking.
gross.
So what I'm going to try to do is try to convince my woman to give him a bath on Tuesday. I'm hoping she'll be up for it. So
Okay.
and then give him a haircut, like with like a Flowbee or something like that. We're gonna
Really?
just start doing
How
some.
come how come Scooties gets the haircut at the salon? Gets his nails trimmed and his hair did and his shampooing with the special doggy shampoo, and Ferg gets a Flowbee. Does that not seem like one has better
Well,
preferential
I
treatment
can
than the
tell you
other?
why. Because last time Ferg was there, he shit in the cage 3 different times, which means he had to get 3 different baths by the time I picked him up. So now the people have put Ferg on express delivery as well as express pickup. So, and they felt like they may have to charge me extra for him since he seems to be difficult.
Did
Maybe
they
that's
charge
why.
you 3 times for each bath that he had to take?
No, they didn't, but they warned me that this won't happen again.
Okay.
Uh, express pickup for Ferg. That's a problem. Okay,
That's so sad.
anyway, and here we go. Box office receipts, Bill, for the weekend of September 29th to October 1st. Yeah, happy October 1st.
Thank you. You too.
We got our
This
birthdays
is
rolling.
it's not this month, but it's early in the next month. And this is officially the month of, is there anything coming out? No. So it's officially the month of nothing. All right. Halloween, I
Well, we have
guess.
the start of the season, right? Doesn't the fall season start? Has started?
Well, the TV season started this week. Yes. Have you watched the Inhumans or?
Oh no, that's what I have to remind you. What I did have it when you were calling or texting me. I thought that's what you were calling about.
Right.
It was on for a few minutes, and I thought myself a couple things.
My eyes are going to fall out.
No, it wasn't that. It wasn't fully negative at all. I saw it and it looks like it is sort of like cheaply made, like they shot it in like a strip mall.
Right, as opposed to the Marvel Netflix shows, which look like they shot it, on 4K and high def.
No, it's the same type of thing a little bit, but it looks more for some reason with this, like running around town and filming in the office for Daredevil, get away with that. Having Luke Cage walk around Harlem, as well as like Jessica Jones, it's all Hell's Kitchen. It's supposed to look like a shithole and basic, and it fits the bill. The only problem is times they have to they don't even do it for Iron Fist, where they only have to have him walk into the lobby of an office building occasionally, because half the time he wants to spend his time over at the dojo on the bad side of town, even though he's a billionaire. That's fine. That's part of their whole thing. With the Inhumans, they're supposed to be royalty. They're supposed to be like, king and a queen, and but it just looks like some sort of like barren shit, like they've got no creativity. But that's not my complaint. I don't have a complaint. But I had it on for a few minutes because I wanted to kind of check it out and get a feel for it. And I guess I was pleasantly surprised by 2 things. One, the character that plays Gorgon, I think, is the black guy.
The black guy?
I like his voice. I like the way he spoke. And I thought it was more like, it wasn't some sort of, my expectations were something else, but it seemed like an interesting, strong character to me. That was after like 4 or 5 minutes. And so I was like, I could probably give him a shot. Then there was the guy that plays, I think it's, what is it, Craniac?
Craniac? Like Craniac's Christmas Tree Village? No.
Okay, whatever. The Asian guy.
Right.
Now, his superpower, if you will, if you want to call it a superpower, his ability, mutant ability.
It's sort of nebulous the way his power works. They don't really explain it very well in the movie, but okay.
I mean, watching it, I kind of knowing from the comic, it's just that like he's some sort of like master technician, master fighter. He can see the moves coming ahead of time.
Right. He's like a uber nerd. Like he can calculate out probabilities and shit. Yeah.
Right. He sees it. I like the way they played it out, because all of a sudden you see him get shot, but then what you realize is that he's just calculating his best course of action, which he did. And I kind of like the way they did that. And I guess at the end, I still think it's a little bit tongue-in-cheek, and it's going to be cheesy, and I'm not sure I'll be fully into it. But my first few minutes of scenes here and there, I did kind of like it, and I think it has some sort of value just based on that. But it just also reminded me of something that I sort of miss Heroes. I think Heroes is an underrated show and was really good, and it took something and like made superpowers seem very cool on a low budget. And I'm still
Bitch,
not
that
sure.
show was over 10 years ago. It ain't coming back.
Wait, well, it's not coming. I don't need it to come back, but it's amazing that that show for me, like, that's how they did it right. And if you're going to follow a template or something, like instead of following the template for like fucking Baywatch and Transformers, which we seem to keep doing, I don't know why we can't like copy something that's actually considered quality to me.
You
It's
know,
almost
Jeff
like
Johns, who ran Heroes, was one of the Heroes showrunners, is in charge of Marvel TV, of which the Inhumans is a part of. Just
so you're telling me
FYI.
he was part of, yeah, he's part of the corporate machine. He can only do so much. Perlmutter is
Okay.
like, this is how we're doing shit, okay? You need to play within our rules. But I want to do this. No, you can't do this. Oh, okay.
Are you going to watch The Gifted on Tuesday?
I
Are
heard
you
it's
going to
got some
try?
better reviews than what I gave it. The answer is no.
Okay. Well,
When they stop doing shit about kids being bullied in school and then having some
that's
sort
the
of like
whole fucking thing of the
some sort of hot
cinematic universe.
cheerleader and then this whole spin of the parents going on the wrong, when they start doing like old ass shit like that, old storylines of like, I don't know why I'm not being accepted, I'm getting beat up and then my powers come out. Once we get past that storyline, then call me.
Then maybe
Okay.
the whole show isn't for you, because I believe the whole show is around that. And
Yes. Yes. Once
and
again,
it's
another kid
also,
being bullied in school. Right.
yeah, it's also kind of a universal story, so that multi generations can identify. I know that you can, because you were like, a big jock cock of the walk in high school, but some of us weren't, and some of us can understand and identify with feeling
Yeah.
ostracized or outsiderized.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. How about we do another story where somehow like this beautiful girl like goes and like becomes like a superhero? I don't know. Whatever it is, the standard shit. That's what I feel like it. I'm not
okay,
feeling it. Okay.
fair.
The number one movie for September 29th through October 21 is It.
Can I say,
What is it?
for the record, I don't get it.
Yeah,
Quote,
I know we've
unquote.
gone over this for you. You just
I don't get it.
it's lost on you. We were talking
Have you
about
gone
this
to see the
before.
movie?
No, I haven't seen the movie. I've been busy living life, Bill. That's what I've been doing.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I will point out that worldwide for it, it's made $553 million on a budget of 35 million bucks.
Well, apparently
553 million on a budget of 35.
it's making it. It's cashing it in.
Yeah.
It's certainly not earning money.
But here you go. Here's another reboot for you that just came out this week. It's our number 5 movie. It's Flatliners.
I didn't even know that came out.
Yeah, it made
Can we say it's flatlining? Yes, that's
$6,700,000. Luckily, the budget's only 19 million. So
well, as it
there's-
stands now, it's going to take 3 weeks to get to that, and it's not going to. That's not going to happen. So
yeah.
apparently, the movie, which I believe, in my opinion, sucked ass the first time, didn't really drag people in for the second time. So
I just don't. But see, the thing about it is, for 19 million, I can see why you would throw money at it. You know what? Let's just get some people in here. Let's get like Ellen Page, Diego Luna in here. He's fresh. We'll just reboot it. It had some sort of like cred back in the days with the old people. Maybe we can strike it up. And they just put some slick new shit in there, some new special effects, whatever else. And
how'd that work
there
out
you
for
go.
them? Not so great, huh?
Not so great. The number 2 movie also came out this weekend is American Made with Tom Cruise. A little bit low fanfare, but it pulled in 17 million. It's got a total foreign and domestic $81 million.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah, for a budget of 50 million for Tom Cruise, and apparently it's gotten some good reviews.
Well, that's good to know
Um,
that Tom can still pull it down when he needs to.
It seems like almost like American Made would have made more money than The Mummy, and it had actually more advertising. I find that to be sad, to be quite honest with you. The number 3 movie is the movie that you saw,
Kingsman.
The Golden Circle. Pulled in another 17 million this past weekend.
For
So
total.
to bring its total domestic budget, if you will, I mean to domestic revenue to 66 million.
That doesn't seem like a lot in 3 weeks.
No, and it brought in 126 foreign, so it's up to 192 million dollars on
Well, thank God
a
for foreign
budget
sales, because
of
I want a Kingsman 3. I loved it. I thought it was better than the first one. I thought it was fresh and fun and exciting and all the things that the Pierce Brosnan slash Daniel Craig era James Bond movies weren't for me. So if you're going to do a spy movie, Kingsman for me is the way you do it. And I love the series, and I want there to be another one.
You know what? That's fair enough. Maybe they'll make a third one, but they won't put $104 million into it.
I mean, if you count foreign sales, it made a lot of money. So, I mean, anymore, some of these movies, a lot of times, foreign sales make up more than half of the total box office. So, I mean,
Listen,
along with
as long
Warcraft,
as they're
maybe.
making their money, I guess there should be no complaint. But sometimes,
Sure.
you know, we're getting into this whole thing where we're throwing like $100 million movies. Like, it's not for the case of Flatliners, but they're doing these reboots and they put all this stuff in here. And you just see it, like you see it crop up once again, which I keep saying over and over, this old formula of like, let's just throw in the hottest actor and then put them in this old ass vehicle. And then all we do is we add slick graphics and one-liners, and then they send it out there into the world, and they look at you and go, I don't know why it didn't work. We had a good director and whatever else. It's because I would say to you that it's just not fresh.
Again, you want to give
fresh.
people credit. There's no credit for people in a world in which Donald Trump is the president and Transformers has 7 movie series. Okay? There's just no credit for that. I don't give you credit.
Madness. It's
Yes,
you know what? I
it's
got to
all
get
that.
what's this? I got to get Charlton Heston on here. It's a madhouse.
Yes. Don't touch me, you damn dirty ape. That's the world we live in. You're
You
giving
know-
you really, as for somebody who isn't really like really down with like, I mean, I'm sure you're fine with people. You don't necessarily have an issue like standalone with people in general like I do. But you really give people a lot of credit for like having intelligence and being in general, you know, somewhat worthy of existing. Whereas I think 90% of people really should just die off and give the world, you know, more oxygen.
Well, listen, the North Koreans are coming, so it's only a matter of time. I mean, they're attacking on the west, the east, the south, the weather. You know, as you were sitting here going over one of your diatribes, I clicked on a Yahoo News article, and it was about the whole tax plan. And I was sitting here reading it, and then I realized that I've done the thing I should not be doing, is I should not be reading the news because then I get angry.
You don't want us to be
anymore.
angry.
I don't recall that when I was like a decade ago where I would read the news. Like I would go to the news and I would read it and I wouldn't walk away. You know, there was always some things going on, but now it's just like one of those things. You're just like this. Oh, this just sounds like just a shit festival.
Yes, because 10 years ago, you were still youthful and not fucking like middle-aged. And now you're like, you know, you realize the weight of like, you know, decisions and shit you make. 10 years ago, you were just like, you know what? I just want to make the world populated with my own personal seed. I want to spread the world with me. That will make the world better. More of me. Now you realize, you know, everything's fucked.
Oh. Good Lord. Okay, the number 4 movie is the Lego Ninjago movie. It pulled in $12 million for a total of $35 million. Well, worldwide, it's up to 58.
You know, after Lego Batman, which I never saw the original Lego movie, the Lego Batman movie did not do anything for me, and I felt like it was a waste of my time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm not surprised. I guess you just can't make any old Lego thing into a movie and make it be successful. Shocker.
You know, what's interesting is that somehow Battle of the Sexes movie made like $3,400,000. It says a lot. It says a lot. What, you know. Anyway, what else? I'm looking at everything else on the list. This month for me on my Netflix bill, I've got some movies. I'm getting rid of this Baywatch Transformers shit. Ooh, Gerald's Game is also available on Netflix. It's a Stephen King thing. Are you going to add that
I
to the
know.
queue?
I watched. I mean, I read. That's one of the very few books I've ever read, and I enjoyed the book. But for some
Really?
reason, yeah, I don't feel a need to see the movie. I don't know. I just don't really care. I mean, I've seen the
Oh,
trailer. The trailer looks fine, and I'm sure. I just don't see really how that subject and the way the book was done, where there's a lot of like internal monologue within the character. That there's only really two characters in the book, and one of them dies early on. So I don't know how they can really make that internal dialogue really translate well into a film. Why don't you watch
okay.
it and tell me what you think, and then maybe I'll decide.
I will. And that's what I'm talking about. This is Netflix giving me creative shit. It's not $100 million shit, but I'm piquing my interest. Like, because it seems so fresh. I'm just gravitating to it. I'm like, oh, I didn't know there was a Gerald's Game by Stephen King. It looks interesting. It's available on Netflix. Add to queue.
You never read the
It's
book?
like with Amazon. Add to queue.
You never read the book?
Nope, never heard of Gerald's Game.
Are you kidding me? You know what the story's about, right? Like the general. Of course, you've seen the trailer.
No, I haven't seen the trailer, but I had the idea that like I don't know, husband wife problems or something like that.
It's a story about a woman and a husband who get into like kinky sex, and he chains her up and like ties her up in like a mountain cabin, handcuffs her to the bedpost so they can do it all nasty like. And then when they're about to do it, he dies, and she's stuck there handcuffed to the bed for the rest of the movie. That's the
Ooh,
story. How does she get out of this
wow.
situation?
Ooh, wow. That's like one of the worst fears for people, I'd imagine, when you do shit like that.
Maybe you shouldn't do deviant shit like that, and you won't have to worry about it. Just
Well,
saying.
sure, maybe you should have some sort of like, you know what, we're about to engage in some kinky shit, and if you don't hear from me within like 6 hours and assume that somebody died, I need you to come over here and then like let me loose or something like
Yeah,
that. How about that?
yeah.
You know what you
Anyway,
could also have is you could also have like the Amazon Echo or Google Assisted Home where you could be like this, Alexa, dial 911.
yes, of course. Back when this movie was written, or this book was written, it was like 1990. There was no such thing as Alexa or Google Helper or whatever you call it. So that was a different world. There was
Have you
no
got
cell
some of that shit in
phones.
your? Okay. Oh, well, I'm going to add it. I'm going to let you know how that goes. So, what's the deal? Are you going to be getting an Alexa Home or Echo or
I
whatever
don't think
dot?
so. I think when the shit can like actually like open my car door and start my car for me and drive me to work while I'm sleeping, then I will fucking probably order it. Until then, I don't really feel like the need
Uh,
to know the weather, or I don't need Alexa to order me a book that I can go online and order for myself in 5 seconds. I say
yeah.
all this shit until it becomes some reason that I find myself necessary to buy it, which is, exactly what happened with my smartphone, where I felt like I don't need a smartphone when I can just get on the internet at home. And now, if you try to take my iPhone away from me, I will fucking hurt you. So,
I know what it will be in the future when the technology gets so high when you're able to clone yourself. And all of a sudden, I'm going to say to you, like, Bill, just for convenience sake, can we do the show on Saturday? And your clone's going to be like, this, sure. We can do the show on Saturday. What time would you like to do it at? 8 o'clock in the morning? I'm fine with that. We can get it done early. I'd be like, fuck, it's a clone. It's a clone.
uh, so are you going to buy the iPhone 10, or have you decided what you're doing?
I haven't decided. I
We've
haven't.
decided that the
My
iPhone
phone.
8 though is off the table, right? Like the iPhone 8 is like not an option. Because why don't you just buy a calculator?
Yeah, but the thing about it is my decision is that like I can wait because the phone's going to be a hot seller, and it's not going to happen for at least another 4 to 5 months.
What
I
are you
know they
talking
say
about? 4 to 5 months.
it
It
comes
comes
out in November, but is there a
pre-orders.
chance?
Pre-orders start October 27th.
Yeah, I don't know. I've got a lot of expenses up here. You know.
Oh, stop! You can pay for an iPhone 10 if you want one. I understand that you're in a relationship now with a frugal woman who feels like all these things may not be necessary, for practicality's sake. However, for me, listen, all I can tell you is this: this phone is my life. I live on this phone. The first thing I do in the morning when I get up or wake up from sleeping is check my phone. The last thing I do at night before I go to bed, check my phone. I mean, it's just the ultimate object. And it's not about, the cachet of it. I don't give a shit if it says Apple on it or whatever. I'm just saying it's very sophisticated to have this thing in my life.
Superfan Carlos went over this with me. He wrote this whole long text message string, as he's apt to do, on how, like, this phone that I have needs to be able to call my children if I break down, if something happens, emergencies, I pay bills on it, all these things. Like, why would I not want to have the latest technology on a device that I use the most in my life?
Right, absolutely. That's exactly my point. Of all the things I use in my life, this phone is like an extension of me. And it's not that I, get on there and interact with other people. I get information from it. It's an information device for me. But I do feel like I need that connection. So why would I not get the latest and greatest of the most, like Carlos said, device I use most in my life?
Yeah, okay. All right.
So what is it about that you don't want or care for or feel is necessary?
Oh, with me, it's always about the dollars with me, Bill. It's always with the dollars. Okay, let's just bottom line it. The only reason why I wouldn't get an iPhone 8 is because it's not a big enough jump from the iPhone 7.
Right.
Like, it's not
you might as well keep an iPhone 7 to get an iPhone 8.
Right. Yeah, there's no need for me to do that. So, I want them to be able to do something else, and the iPhone 10 might be able to provide that. Then it's like, well, you might as well wait. And if you're going to make a jump, you want to make a jump to some sort of like the highest level if you can. So it's a matter as what's going to be the numbers at the end of the day to pay. And eventually, apparently, all these people are just going to get my money, because no matter where, if I pull here and pinch there, it goes over into something else.
Right. For example,
I save money on my PlayStation Vue and get rid of my AT-Uverse, but now I've upgraded to the iPhone 10, and so the money I was paying for cable now goes to a higher end phone.
But you'll be using that money towards a device that you use more often than you use your cable. So it's not like you're not getting your money's worth out of that device because you're not going to be using it. For example, for me, I wish I could actually sell my tablet because I don't even use my tablet. I find for me, the lightness and compactness of my phone with the ability to still read all the information on my phone that I can get on my tablet is more ideal for me, because I just don't like lifting heavy things, and big bulky things get on my nerves. So the phone for me is all of the things I need. So it's really the best investment I could make.
How much are you going to sell your tablet for, by the way?
Well, I've already sold my iPad because I just didn't think it was all that great. And I got a Samsung tablet. The Samsung tablet, quite honestly, I don't really use that much. I mean, it's fine. But other than maybe reading in the tub, which, I don't want to take my phone into because I could drop it. And if I drop my phone in the tub, then I'm just going to kill myself. Then, that's really all I use it for. So...
Well, you better sell it before Black Friday shows up. I mean, we're hitting,
I don't think I am. I'll probably just keep it. At this point, it's probably not worth that much money. It's a couple years old. But I can tell you who's going on the pre-order iPhone 10 list, and that would be me.
Probably should just use it as a remote for any upcoming like cord cutting, Direct View, Direct TV Now, PlayStation View app, to be quite honest with you.
I could use my phone.
You like it when I just start playing the music while you're talking?
I do, because it's 4:29 and baby's got to get to the tub.
Oh, you get the tub! I've got dinner over my woman's house.
Oh, that's fun.
I'm having hot dogs, mashed potatoes, and a salad.
Oh, that sounds white trashy.
Well, it's her son's. She's celebrating her son's birthday, and he likes shepherd's pie. And his girlfriend likes soup right now, and then there's a kid that they have, and he likes hot dogs. So I don't eat shepherd's pie. I don't want soup, so I'm having hot dogs.
Do you know what shepherd's pie even has in it?
I think she's mentioned it before.
It's like all the meats and like sauce and bread. There's nothing really in shepherd's pie that you probably wouldn't like, so you should probably try it.
Yeah, with mashed potatoes mixed in there too, right?
Yeah. Oh, you don't like the food to touch? Is that the problem?
Yeah, I don't really like all mixed up in there. So
Okay.
no, you like pie?
I don't have a problem with it. It's not like I'm gonna make my own, but it's okay.
Oh,
The only thing I don't like in shepherd's pie is I don't eat lamb. I think lamb is just gross. I don't know why people eat shit like lamb and rabbit. That's just nasty.
well, Bill, I've enjoyed my time with you.
Me too.
All right. Well, thanks for listening to our show with extra long since we've had a couple weeks off, more than a couple weeks. Shout out to all our fans, fan Melissa, fan Nadia, Carlos. Thanks for listening. My woman, to all the people. I've been your co-host, Payne.
I'm Bill.
We'll see you in 2 weeks.
Bye.
Thank you.